Kipling and Robert W. Service. At 21, he took off to the western part of the Canada. He's a Canadian British personage, and there wrote 1,000 poems and two autobiographies and 3 novels, and the most prolific, prosperous poet during his lifetime that ever there was. His poem, Call of the Wild, I really adore. Have you gazed on naked grandeur with nothing else to gaze on? Set pieces, drop curtain scenes galore, big mountains heave to heaven, which blinding sunsets blazon, black canyons where rapids rip and roar. Have you swept the vision valleys with green streams streaking through it? Search the vastness for something you have lost? Then for God's sake, go and do it. Hear the challenge. Learn the lesson. Pay the cost. Have you wandered in the wilderness, the sagebrush desolation, the bunch grass levels where cattle graze? Have you whistled bits of ragtime at the end of all creation? Have you come to know the desert's little ways? Have you camped upon the foothills, galloped o'er the ranges, roamed the air sunlands through and through? Have you chummed up with a mesa? Do you know its moods and changes? Then hearken to the wild, it's wanting you. Have you known the great white silence, not a snow-gemmed twig a quiver? Eternal truths that soothe our shameful lives. Have you broken trail on snowshoes? Mushed your huskies up the river, dared unknown, led the way, clutched the prize? Have you marked the map's void spaces, mingled with mongrel races, felt the savage strength of brute in every thew? And grim as hell the worst is, can you round it off with curses? Then hearken to the wild, it's calling you. Have you suffered, starved, and triumphed, groveled down, yet grasped for glory, grown bigger in the bigness of the whole? Have you done things just for doing, letting babblers tell the story, seeing through the nice veneer, the naked soul? Have you seen God in his splendors, heard the text that nature renders, or you'll never hear it in the family pew? The simple things, the true things, the silent men who do things. Then listen to the wild, it's calling you. They have cradled you in custom. They have primed you with their preaching. They have soaked you in convention through and through. They have put you in their showcase. You're a credit to their teaching. But can't you hear the wild? It's calling you. Let us probe the silent places. Let us seek what luck betide us. Let us journey to a holy land, I know. There's a whisper in the night wind and a star, a gleam to guide us. And the wild is calling, calling. Let us go.
Our opening hymn this morning is number 22, Dear Weaver of Our Lives' Design. Please feel free to sing with us. Dear Weaver of our lives' design, whose patterns all
We are a community that holds one another in our celebrations and in our pain. We welcome you to share your joys and sorrows by writing them down on the card you found on your chair and placing it in the basket when it comes by you, or by typing in the chat box in Zoom. Know that whatever your heart is holding today, whether scared or not, we are with you.
Hi, I've been playing with watercolor paints for a long time, and they turned out to be a real lifesaver when COVID started and I was getting more isolated than usual from friends and family. My family spread all over the place. And I have lots of grown grandchildren that have their own lives and their own pets. So I decided to start doing some watercolors of all of my grandkids' pets and my kids' pets and my friends' pets, mostly dogs, you'll see. That's actually Gemma. That's Mary Beth and Peter's dog. I won't try to name them all for you, but I've done about 50 since COVID started. And it's just been incredible. I don't get to keep up with my growing family very easily, and to be able to give them a gift, to be able to get to know this person, this creature that they love in their house, to be able to look at these sweet faces and try to render them looking kind of like they do. I have to say I cheat. I'm telling you now, don't tell anybody. But drawing, I'm the least comfortable with. So I get a photo, I print it out on the computer in the size of the painting that I want, and then I use graphite paper to trace the outlines of these animals. And then I go to work and try to make watercolors look like fur and tongues. There's a cow in here. Maybe we've passed that. That's Daisy. I'd love to just name them all for you. Addison, Charlie Brown, Gemma, Sasha, Rhodey, Barney, Bessie, Daisy, Elliot, Garfield, Haas, Wren, Lila and Lulu, Matilda, Moki, Patrick, Riley. Springer is the cow, if you've seen him. That's Ted, the cat that was just there. There are two Stellas that look very different, and Maverick and Maggie. And I've been lucky enough to do a whole lot more. I sort of made up with a neighbor who I'd been feuding with for a long time. I offered to do her two dogs, and we started being friends again and talking. It's been a real connection. I printed out pictures of some of them you can look at in the back, but thank you for giving me a chance to share that. Don't know if you can see, I've cropped these down to just be faces because my eye doctor, for whom I did a little painting of his dog, said he might want to have some paintings for his new office. And I don't know if this is going to happen, but I cropped it down to just be faces. So you can see the eyes and the souls of these other creatures that are not humans, but certainly you connect with when you look at their faces. And reminds me of the interconnected web for sure. So thanks for letting me share that.
Thank you.
Isn't that a great one? I just did that. That's Maverick. That's the anchor. We are a community that holds one another in our celebrations and in our pain. Whoops, sorry. Now is the time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts support our church in its work. The work is summarized in our covenant. The covenant for UUCC says, in service of the values that unite us, we will recognize the inherent value of each person, foster a community of compassion and caring for all, value our diverse opinions, and engage respectfully in all the interactions. 1/4 of our plate collection for the muddy season goes to the Women's Foundation of Genesee Valley, an organization with the goal to promote economic self-sufficiency for women and girls through grant making, education, and advocacy. You can give to this morning's offering by placing cash or a check into the basket. Or if you are joining us from home by visiting canandaiguauu.org/connection/donate, or mailing a check to UUCC at 3024 Cooley Road, Canandaigua, New York, 14424. In either case, make a note that your gift is intended for today's offering. As we collect this morning's offering, we encourage you to stand up, move a bit, and even dance or sing along as Chelsea plays bass and Adelaide, Hazel, Jane, and their friend Carrie dance to Under the Sea.
And if you would like to play a rhythm instrument, there are a number of
Thank you to Chelsea, Adelaide, Hazel, Jane, and Carrie for that wonderful performance. For our joys and sorrows today, keeping in our hearts, Reverend Eileen's son, Ewan, spent most of the past week hospitalized with respiratory distress, and his family asks you to share in their gratitude that he is recovering well and joy in the supportive love of community. Joy at hearing all the singing together, joy for get-togethers, joy for hockey being over. From Tim, joy after the successful run of our school's spring musical. Concern for a friend whose wife has some serious health concerns. For all the innocent people in the Ukraine whose lives and home have been torn apart. From Karen, I am joyful that I have realized that I am able to connect with my dad by calling him on my way to church while he is eating breakfast. Now I will drop a stone for these and all the joys and sorrows left in the silence of our hearts. Whatever is in your heart today, we are with you. Scobie will lead us now in some movement for meditation. And Thomas is going to give us a quick demonstration of how to mirror the move.
So I'm going to lead some very simple movements for just a few minutes, and you're welcome to stay in your chairs. I suggest that you stay in your chairs to move to the front of your chairs, or get up. And it's only going to last a few minutes, and there's a simple stretching movement, and please don't overdo it if you have any limitations. And we will close in silence. When we close, I thought it would be nice if you just adopt a posture that mirrors your feelings for all those who are suffering at this moment. So keep that in mind.
Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. I look sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Spirit of life, all the stirrings of compassion blow in the giving life, the shape of justice. Slowly flow, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me.
Okay, I'm going to read a couple of haiku and then 3 Zen poems and 2 longer poems this morning. Herald of morning, red breasts swelling to share tune, sing me sweet spring song. Tree frog conversing with bitter fish about life's possibilities. The first Zen poem, just beyond my wall of nature writings, The orange oak leaf dances in a gust of wind. Cat sits. Chickadee lights nearby. Cat sits. Zazen is sitting cross-legged for Zen meditation. Sitting Zazen. The crow caws atop the pine. My voice afar. Susan and I were camping in Grand Manan Island off the Maritime provinces, off the coast of Canada. And one night I heard a strange sound which awakened me from sleep. And so I got up and experienced what I realized in a few moments was a whale. And so here's a poem I wrote about that. It's called Edging. Squawking gulls and barking seals summon me from full moon sleep to cliff edge. Far below, a whoosh, a single wave on dulse-clad rocks keeps me on edge. As I search the darkness, the silence, she resurfaces, surrounds me with hot, moist breath. I inhaled quickly, deeply, to embrace her. And the last poem is I was sitting in Dali Java many days with Sam Hall and the crew. Sam kept talking about how the city was going to cut down the basswood in front of his Gibson Street house. And so I decided to write a poem about that. It was published in Owl Light News, and I would like to share it with you. I would also like to share that the memorial service in Gibson on a hillside was really a wonderful experience. Sad, but beautiful. The name of the poem is Tilia Americana, which is for basswood. One roadside basswood on Gibson Street rears its delicate arms to protest those who would do it in. Who will speak for the tree? The birds and bees seasonally inhabiting its branches? The rabbits and the voles dining on its bark? The caterpillars chewing its leaves? The chipmunks, squirrels, and mice munching the seeds? The bees, especially the bees, who create spicy honey from its gifts? The gentle octogenarian on whose land it lives? The beekeeper who, like the Slavs, considers it sacred, who, like those in other cultures, believes it repels bad spirits? Maybe you and I, who value the diversity of life, the interconnectedness of species, certainly not those clear-cutting Amazonian cloud forests, nor those who fail to welcome shade or aesthetics. Gone are the days of those earth firsters who would spike the tree to save it, the days of active tree sitting as men came wielding chainsaws or axes. Let's welcome the spring buds when the rain comes, the summer flowering of verdant leaves and yellow-white flowers, the nutlet fruit, even the autumn leaf fall. And let's honor the trails of snow-covered branches that direct our vision to the full moon, the North Star, distant galaxies. Rest in peace, Sam.
Everybody got their percussion? I hear it. Some of you are aware that today we're worshiping or we're honoring the son because it's Sunday. But next Sunday is going to be the vernal equinox. So the sun is on its way. So if you can help me, now that you can sing, the sun's on its way to our northern land. Sun's on its way to the northern land. Sun's on its way to the northern land. Sun's on its way to the northern land. Good Gaia, sun's on its way. We sing with joy. We're clapping our hands. Or we're singing with joy. We're clapping our hands. We sing with joy. We're clapping our hands. Winter's gone. Spring's coming on. Oh, great percussion. Woo. The sun's gonna shine more and more each day. The sun's gonna shine more and more each day. The sun's gonna shine more and more each day. The sun's on its way. The sun's on its way. The sun's on its way to the northern land. The sun's on its way to the northern land. The sun's on its way to the northern land. Good Gaia, the sun's on its way.
Well, that was a good segue. So when I was asked to do a book review for this potluck service, and I thought about some good books I'd read recently, I just finished reading one called The Daughters of Yalta, which is about the Yalta Conference and Churchill's and Roosevelt's daughters who were both there. And then I thought about another really good one that I read a while ago called Lincoln in the Bardo. And then recently I read Huckleberry Finn, which is actually way funnier than I ever remember it being. So when I read it before, you have to bring years to some books to actually appreciate them. But then I thought about the books that I really like reading at this time of year: Fine Gardening, Pine Tree Seed Catalog, Fruition Seed Catalog, and especially the Prairie Moon Nursery Catalog. I always order vegetable seeds every year and start them early or sow them out when the weather and the soil are right. And I always have to restrain myself at this time of year not to start them too early so they get leggy before I can put them out. I've been adding native bushes to my perennial gardens for several years, partly to help the birds and bugs and partly to make less work for me. But this year I wanted to try something new. So I'm going to try to make a meadow in our front yard by letting the grass grow in the center of the lawn and just mowing around the edges so that it looks like we're doing it on purpose. And since I don't know what will grow from my lawn, which has never been just grass, I'm going to move a few native plants I already have, like Coreopsis and little blue stem, into the meadow, and maybe add some prairie plants, hence my reading of the Prairie Moon Nursery Catalog. I'm studying what will work best in the sun and the clay soil and not get overpowering, but just add some color and different pollen, hoping to attract some different insects. The catalog tells me what species each plant attracts and what conditions it likes best. It will be exciting to see how this goes. That is what I like about gardening. You never know exactly how things are going to work out, and you have to be patient to find out. So ask me later in the summer and I'll give you an update.
I'm gonna play a piece by a Norwegian composer named Ola Demo. If I don't take my mask off, my glasses completely fog up and I can't see music, which is a problem.
Hello, my name is Tim Coughlin. I'm going to keep my mask on for a moment. My wife, Megan, and myself and our son, Thomas, have attended a few in-person services and quite a few of the Zoom services when Tom's nap, Tom's 10 months, allows, but he doesn't understand daylight savings yet, so his nap is not going to allow him to be here today. Hopefully, I think they're on Zoom. I'm going to read a poem. It seems like it's poem day, but I'm going to pass out copies of the poem. I'm an English teacher and I printed a bunch of copies for my students of this and I couldn't help but bring them for you as well. So it just seems like the right thing to do sometimes to read poems in front of us. So pass it out. While Thomas is passing it out, I'll tell you just briefly about it, about myself. I'm an English teacher at Victor. My wife's a teacher as well at Bloomfield. And this is the first poem that I wrote a paper about when I was 16. It's a bold poem to choose, I think, for a 16-year-old. It's by Wallace Stevens, who's an American modernist poet in the 1930s to the 1950s. The reason I chose Stevens for today is because, like so many of us speaking today, Stevens had a bit of a dual life in terms of his ability to be a poet and a Pulitzer Prize winning poet. His collected poems, which this poem ends, won the Pulitzer. But also he was an insurance executive for his entire career. And he led a life of numbers and laws. He had his Juris Doctorate, and they offered him a position at Harvard, and he said, no, I really want to just be an insurance executive. But I find his poetry astonishingly good, some of the best American poetry I've found. And I think it's, this poem perhaps not, but Stevens himself is a nice compliment to The Call of the Wild, which was read beautifully, thank you. In the sense that Stevens is very playful, not quite as sonically playful as the poem earlier, but playful in his ideas. So this poem's called Not Ideas About the Thing, but the Thing Itself. And I chose it because I think it's about a search for truth and meaning, which is, I think, what this service is about. Not ideas about the thing, but the thing itself. At the earliest ending of winter in March, a scrawny cry from outside seemed like a sound in his mind. He knew that he heard it, a bird's cry at daylight or before in the early March wind. The sun was rising at 6. No longer a battered panache above snow, it would have been outside. It was not from the vast ventriloquism of sleep's faded papier-mâché. The sun was coming from outside. That scrawny cry, it was a chorister whose sea preceded the choir. It was part of the colossal sun, surrounded by its coral rings, still far away. It was like a new knowledge of reality. Thank you.
Closing hymn is Siahamba. And it is in the Teal hymnal, if you like the words, but there are so few words that I thought I would just tell you what they are, which is,
We are marching in the light of love. 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 We are marching. We are marching. We are marching in the light of love. We are marching. We are marching. We are marching and dancing and singing and playing in the light of love. Here we go. We are marching in the light of love. 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 We are marching. We are marching. Ooh, we are marching in the light of love. We are marching. We are marching. Ooh, we are marching in the light. We are singing. We are singing in the light of love. 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 We are singing. Ooh, we are singing in the light of love. We are singing. We are singing. Ooh, we are singing in the light of. We are dancing. We are dancing in the light of love. We are marching in the light of love. We are playing, we are playing, oh, we are playing in the light of love. We are playing, we are playing in the, one more time, marching. We are marching in the light, we are marching in the light of love. We are marching in the light of love. We are marching in the light of love. We are marching. Ooh, we are marching. Ooh, we are marching in the light of love.
I'd like to thank everybody who offered everything. This was an inspirational, just a joy. Thank you all for being with us this morning and for sharing your gifts with us and the world today and every day. Please join me in our words for extinguishing the chalice. If you don't know them by heart, they can be found at number 456 at the back of the gray hymnal. We extinguish this flame, not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.